Abby, it's Monday, and welcome to part 2 of a series of unfortunate etymologies, where I look at the meanings of the names of various fictional characters, and hopefully we all gain some insight, or something. If you haven't seen the first part yet and would like to, then there should be a little thingy popping up in one of these two corners. I think it's this one? Yeah, it's this one. I don't know. I only just figured out how to add these things, like, yesterday, so this is just, we're learning together, guys. We're learning, okay? Just like last time, this video is going to contain spoilers, even for the books that haven't been adapted by Netflix yet. I'm going to mispronounce words, and this video is just mainly going to be me massively overthinking everything, like I always do. Also, last video, I had, like, a really good way to organize everything, because I was going by, like, common last names. But here, I don't really have a good way to organize things other than vaguely chronological order. So if this video seems kind of jumpy and all over the place, I'm sorry, there's not really much I can do about that. Today we are going to be focusing on characters from the main series who do not share a surname with anyone. But before we start, it turns out that there is a researcher of philosophy whose name is Jacques. I don't know how I managed to miss this after the countless hours of research that I put into the first video, but I somehow managed to miss that. So, there you go. For today's non-Jacques Snicket related content, we're going to be starting with everyone's least favorite character, at least I hope, good old Neil Patrick Harris himself, Count Olaf. Because his name is Olaf, I feel required by law to make a Frozen reference, so future Molly, just throw something up on screen right here. Okay, we're done with that, moving on. Olaf comes from an Old Norse name that means ancestor's descendant. What? So, an ancestor is someone who is above you on your family tree, right? So then, your descendant is someone who is below you on your family tree, right? So, by definition, aren't we all our ancestors' descendants? What the heck, Norway? I guess it's an ironic name for Olaf, since it's really generic and he thinks he's better than everyone else. But it's still a stupid name, like, Norway, what did you do? Why would you name your child that? It's quite obvious that Mr. Poe is named after Edgar Allan Poe, especially considering that he named his children Edgar and Albert. Like, not gonna lie, that happens like 10 pages into the first book, and as soon as I read that, I knew I was gonna like this book series. In the unauthorized autobiography, it's revealed that his first name is Arthur, and, this is completely irrelevant, but there is a chance that the name Arthur might mean either Bear Man or Bear King. Well, this certainly puts a different twist on my perception of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And now we shall move on to everyone's favorite herpetologist, Montgomery. I'm assuming that he gets both of his names from Lucy Maud Montgomery, the woman who wrote Anne of Green Gables, because he's part of VFD, and being obsessed with and or named after books is kind of VFD's thing. Interestingly enough, Montgomery was originally used as a surname, and then it eventually transitioned over to being used as a first name. The name itself means "Goo man that guy." His mountain, with that guy's name being derived from Germanic elements that mean man and power or rule. So essentially, being named Montgomery means that you are a mountain that belongs to a strong and powerful man. Staying within the second book, you remember Gustav, that guy that Stefano, it was really Count Olaf, murdered, and who then randomly became important in the unauthorized autobiography for some reason? Yeah, that guy. Well, one potential translation of the name Gustav is Staff of the Goths. I really hope I'm not the only person who finds that amusing. Also, there's a famous author by the last name of Sebald, so I'm assuming that's what his last name is referencing. It would have been perfect if he had been like a movie director or like a coding person, but he's not. He's just that guy. I could not find the last name Anwhistle to be related to anything other than a series of unfortunate events, so I'm assuming that's one of the few names that was just completely made up. Josephine is the French feminine form of the name Joseph, which is a Latin name that comes from a Greek name that comes from a Hebrew name that means he will add. What you adding, Josephine? Are you adding more tragedy and trauma to the Baudelaire's lives? Because I'm pretty sure Olaf's doing that enough. And yes, I am going to keep referencing you throughout this entire video because you are a horrible, horrible person. I tried looking up the meaning of Larry, your waiter's name, but instead I found something deeply, deeply shocking. And to facilitate better communication about this subject, I am now going to dictate an open letter to England. Or is England what's called just the one country, and then the entirety of you are the United Kingdom? But then what is Great Britain? What? Dear England, I'm upset. When we left after the Revolutionary War, we made a pact together. You guys would be the ones who are actually intelligent and know what you're doing with your lives, but you would be super uncool. Whereas we would be the ones who are kind of smart, but not really, and we think we're cool, we act cool, but in reality everyone just hates us, and we know this, but instead of addressing the issue, we just stay sad and emotionally fractured, and we try to cover it up by acting like we don't care, and going on Twitter rants at 4 in the morning. In reality, everyone just sees right through us. But that's not the point. You guys have a cat working in your government. That is cool. You guys are being cool. That was not in the agreement. Like, I don't know why you would just do this without even telling us. I mean, we have spent hundreds of years building up this core foundation of mistrust and abysmal communication and hatred that has been mocked and parodied on Tumblr so many times, and now you're just throwing it away for a cat. I don't know why you would do this to us. I guess what I said in the beginning was wrong. I'm not upset, England. I'm just disappointed. I thought you were lamer than this. I really thought you were. So, I don't remember filming that. I don't remember writing that. I don't know why it is in my video and why I can't remove it from my video. And I don't know why it has a gray tint and sad piano music attached to it that I can't edit out for some reason. But, let's just get back to etymology, shall we? It is kind of in the title of the video, so. I was convinced that Charles, the useless VFD guy, had to be named after something. So I was like driving myself insane, trying to figure out who this guy could possibly be named after, and then I realized he's literally named after Charles Dickens. I'm smart, everyone! Phil is a Greek name element, which often can be used to mean friend or beloved, which is fitting, considering his character. There's also a famous science fiction author called Philip K. Dick, but I'm not quite sure if this is supposed to be a reference or not, due to this character just being called Phil instead of Philip. But then again, the only notable Phils that I know of are the Doctor and that one super popular YouTuber that I've never watched, so. If you listen closely, you can hear all of the people unsubscribing because I said I don't watch Dan and Phil. Nero is a name that has origins in both Rome and in Italy, although that's the same country. Anyway, the Roman version means strong and vigorous, and the Italian version comes from some Germanic elements, why am I so surprised, that mean advice and army. There was this evil Roman emperor named Nero, and the story goes that he ordered his soldiers to set the entire city of Rome on fire, and while they carried out this order, he sat in his office and calmly played the violin. Although it has actually been revealed that the violin wasn't invented until like 1,500 years after this event took place, but still. And people try and tell me that Vice Principal Nero isn't part of the bad side of VFD. The two teachers we know of at Proofrock, Mr. Remora and Mrs. Bass, both have fish for surnames. Because, yeah, Spats is an appropriate last name for Carmelita, since a spat is a petty quarrel or argument, and boy howdy does that girl like getting involved in petty quarrels and arguments. Carmelita is a diminutive of the name Carmel, and before you ask, no. It's not the candy. The candy has 2 A's. The name only has 1. The name Carmel comes from a Hebrew word meaning garden, and it's the name of a mountain in Israel that is very important in the Bible. I believe it's like the mountain that Moses went up on to receive the Ten Commandments. That's probably wrong. In any case, I doubt that that mountain has anything to do with Carmelita, because Carmelita is not holy at all. A Hector is a domineering person or a bully, and there is a fierce Greek warrior of the same name. It's kind of ironic, considering how Lemony Snicket's Hector can't stand up to the council whenever they're, like, within his line of eyesight at all. The name Olivia actually comes from a Shakespeare play called Twelfth Night that I believe I've talked about on this channel before. It's believed that he probably based Olivia off of either the names Oliver or Oliva, which is literally just Olivia, but without the second I. Because I guess Shakespeare is just so extra. Oliver can be interpreted as either meaning elf warrior, or it can go back to that whole ancestors descendant thing that he has going on. And Oliva literally just means olive. So be aware that the next time you meet someone named Olivia, their name might just mean a fruit. Hugo is the Latinized form of the name Hugh, which means heart, mind, or spirit, which seems like a bit of a contradiction to me, considering that those three words all mean different things. I am 100% sure that Hugo is named after the French author Victor Hugo, because Victor Hugo happens to be the man who gave us The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Yeah, Snicket, whatever you want to call him, he really just went there. Colette is the short form of the name Nicolette, which is a diminutive of Nicole, which is the feminine version of Nicholas, and as I mentioned in my last video, Nicholas just means victory of the people, which I guess is also ironic in this case, considering that, you know, the freaks never really get any sort of victory at all. Their lives just kind of consistently suck all the way through, because social critiques. Do you get it yet? There also happens to be a French author named Colette, but she never wrote about contortionists or anything, so I'm assuming that if Snicket's Colette is named after her, it's just because she's another French author, and this series seems to really like naming its characters after French authors. Unfortunately for Kevin, I am unable to find any French authors with that name, and his name is just the anglicized version of some Irish words that mean kind, gentle, handsome, and birth. And, like, yes, Kevin was definitely born, but we'll never know if he's kind and gentle and handsome, because apparently in this universe, if you are born ambidextrous, that is a freaking sin, and that is all you get to be defined by. Shucks to be you. Widdershins is a Scottish phrase that is used to describe when something is traveling the opposite way that the sun is traveling in the sky, and that is considered to be unlucky, and Widdershins can literally be used as a word to describe something that is unlucky. So when Captain Widdershins introduces himself, he's basically just saying, "Hey, my name's Captain Unlucky. Welcome to my submarine. We're all gonna die off screen, kiddos, so get ready." By the way, in case you're wondering why the Queequeg's crew all wear Herman Melville on their uniforms, besides, you know, VFD, it's because Queequeg is the name of a character in the book Moby Dick, which was written by Herman Melville. And interestingly enough, in the story, Queequeg is very good friends with the narrator, whose name is Ishmael. But before we get to that, Fernald is the name of a former nuclear production facility in Ohio. I feel like that should be relevant. I want it to be relevant, but I can't figure out how it is relevant. So if anyone has any ideas as to that, please feel free to contribute them in the comments. As stated in the books, or at least I think it was, that I cannot pronounce this word for the life of me.
Denouement.
It's the part in the story where all of the plot threads are resolved, kind of like the resolution in those wonky charts that your English teachers always made you fill out in school. And that is an extremely fitting name for the hotel, for reasons that I hope I don't need to explain to you. Dewey is, of course, named after the Dewey Decimal System, due to him basing his entire hotel off of it. But interestingly enough, the name is actually a Welsh form of the name David, and the name David means beloved, which is fitting, considering how much Dewey and Kit loved each other. You know, before they both died. Friday, a rather minor character featured in the last book, has a surprising amount of origin to her name, which is kind of terrifying, because it's making me wonder if there are any really minor characters that I overlooked who have fantastic and wonderful backstories to their names. In the book Robinson Crusoe, the titular character, who is trapped on a desert island, or something. He encounters this Native American guy who is about to be eaten by cannibals. He rescues him from the cannibals, and then proceeds to employ him as his servant. Because white people. He gives this native person the name Friday because that's the day that they met, and he converts him to Christianity, teaches him English, and tells him that cannibalism is wrong. And Friday just completely succumbs to all of this, doesn't even question it. Which, I mean, I guess that just proves that this author and Olaf both have similar ideas as to how natives responded to white people invading their territory. Crusoe and Friday eventually sail back to England and just leave all the island's other inhabitants behind. If you were paying even minimal attention and have read Book the 13th, you should have spotted all the parallels between Ishmael and Friday and Crusoe and Friday. But believe it or not, it gets more interesting. In Robinson Crusoe's sequel, The Farther Adventures of Robinson Crusoe, Friday dies and Crusoe lives. So that's a good sign. But since I mentioned Ishmael, I should probably get around to those Moby Dick comparisons that I was foreshadowing like 2 minutes ago, shouldn't I? So